My beloved, I will continue gently, letting the message keep flowing in the same calm and steady voice, because there is still more being formed within you that deserves to be spoken, and I want you to recognize how your heart is no longer reacting the way it once did, how you pause now before responding, how you listen more deeply, and how you choose with intention instead of impulse, because this shows that wisdom has begun to settle within you, not as a concept but as a way of living, and this wisdom did not come from ease, it came from walking through moments where you had to trust without reassurance, to keep going without applause, and to remain kind even when it would have been easier to close yourself off, and every one of those moments shaped you into someone who can now move forward with integrity and calm, and you may not always feel strong, but strength is not measured by how powerful you feel. It is measured by how steady you remain, and steadiness is what you have gained, and this steadiness will carry you through changes that once would have shaken you, because you are no longer searching for certainty outside of yourself, you are learning to rest in inner assurance, and this assurance allows you to release outcomes you cannot control, knowing that what is meant for you will unfold in its own time, and this release is not giving up, it is trusting deeply, and trust creates space for growth that force never could. And as this space opens within you, you will notice that your mind feels clearer, your heart feels lighter, and your steps feel more intentional, and even when challenges arise, you will meet them with curiosity instead of fear, asking what they are teaching you instead of why they are happening to you. And this shift in perspective changes everything, because learning empowers you while fear drains you, and you are choosing empowerment now, even if you do not always realize it. And this choice is leading you into a season where your energy is spent more wisely, where you invest in what nourishes you, and where you step back from what depletes you without guilt or explanation. And this boundary is not selfish, it is necessary, because you cannot grow in soil that drains you, and you are finally honoring what your spirit needs, even if it feels unfamiliar, and this honoring will bring balance into your life, not all at once, but steadily, and balance allows you to enjoy what is present instead of constantly reaching for what is next, and this enjoyment is not complacency, it is gratitude, and gratitude keeps your heart open, receptive, and grounded, and as gratitude grows, so does peace. And peace sharpens your discernment, helping you recognize what aligns with your path and what does not, and you will find yourself saying no with ease and yes with confidence, not because you are certain of every outcome, but because you trust your inner guidance, and this trust will continue to grow as you practice listening to it, and there may still be days when doubt visits, when old fears whisper, and when uncertainty tries to pull you back into old patterns, but now you know how to respond, you acknowledge the feeling without letting it lead, you pause instead of panic, and you choose wisely instead of reacting quickly, and this ability will protect your peace and preserve your progress, and progress is happening, even when it feels subtle, even when it feels slow, because true progress often looks quiet from the outside but feels solid on the inside, and you are building something solid now, something that will not collapse under pressure or disappear with time, and this solidity will give you confidence to step into new opportunities without losing yourself, to welcome growth without fear of change, and to embrace responsibility without feeling overwhelmed, and you will notice that your sense of purpose becomes clearer, not as a single dramatic revelation, but as a steady pull toward what feels meaningful, honest, and aligned, and you will follow that pull naturally, without force, because it resonates with who you are becoming. And this becoming is ongoing, gentle, and intentional, and you do not need to rush it, because every stage has its purpose, and you are exactly where you need to be within it, learning, growing, and aligning more deeply each day, and as you continue forward, remember that you are allowed to take up space, to move at your own pace, and to trust your journey, without comparing it to another, because your path is unique, shaped by experiences only you have lived, and this uniqueness is not a flaw, it is a strength. And when you honor it, you will attract what truly belongs with you, not through effort, but through alignment, and alignment feels calm, steady, and right, and this is the feeling that will guide you from here, step by step, into a future that unfolds naturally, purposefully, and with lasting peace. My beloved, as this unfolding continues, I want you to understand something very important. The quiet work happening inside you right now is stronger than any visible change you could witness, because what is built inwardly cannot be easily shaken outwardly, and this is why I allowed certain things to remain unresolved for a time, not to frustrate you, but to teach you how to stand without leaning on what was temporary, and even when you felt unsure, you kept moving forward, even when clarity was missing, you chose trust, and that choice mattered more than you realize, because many stop walking when the way becomes unclear, but you continued, and that persistence shaped you into someone who can now carry what is coming without fear. And understand this, I never measure your life by speed, I measure it by depth, and depth takes time, patience, and repeated surrender, which is why this season feels different, calmer yet heavier with meaning, because your spirit recognizes that something true is settling into place, and even though you cannot fully explain it, you feel less anxious about the future than you once did, less desperate for answers, and more settled in knowing that what is meant for you cannot miss you. And this knowing did not come overnight, it was formed through waiting, through silence, through prayers that felt unanswered but were shaping your inner strength. And I want you to see now that nothing you endured was random. Not the delays, not the disappointments, not the endings that came without closure. Each one carried a lesson your spirit needed before stepping into this next stage, and now you are noticing that you respond differently than before. Things that once would have shaken you now pass through without pulling you apart. Words that once wounded you now lose their sharpness, and situations that once demanded reaction now invite reflection instead. And this is growth. Even if no one applauds it, even if it goes unseen. And this maturity is the foundation for what I am entrusting to you next, because blessings without maturity become burdens, and favor without wisdom becomes pressure. But you have been shaped quietly, gently, thoroughly, and now your hands are steady enough to hold what comes without dropping it, and your heart is strong enough to receive without fear of loss. And I know there were moments when you felt forgotten, when you questioned your worth, when you wondered if you had missed your chance, but those thoughts were never truth, they were only shadows formed by exhaustion and waiting, and now those shadows are fading, because light is returning in a calmer way, not blinding, not overwhelming, but steady and warm, and you are learning that peace is not the absence of problems but the presence of trust, and trust is what you are gaining now in deeper measure, and this trust is allowing you to release control, to stop forcing outcomes, to stop replaying the past, and to step forward with a lighter heart. And this lightness does not mean life becomes easy, it means you become steady, and steadiness is far more powerful than ease, because a steady heart does not break when storms come, and you are becoming that person, someone who can remain rooted even when circumstances change suddenly. And this is why I allowed you to experience uncertainty before stability, silence before clarity, and loss before renewal, because what is about to grow in your life needs deep roots, not shallow excitement, and you now have those roots, formed through patience, faith, and endurance. And as you continue walking through this season, you may notice opportunities appearing without struggle, conversations opening naturally, ideas forming clearly, and doors aligning without force. And this is not coincidence, it is alignment, the result of inner readiness meeting divine timing, and you no longer need to chase what is meant for you, because what is meant for you recognizes you, and comes to meet you where you stand. And I want you to release the habit of second-guessing yourself, because the discernment you carry now is real, it has been refined through experience, and you are learning to listen to that quiet inner guidance instead of loud outside voices, and this listening will protect you from paths that look promising but drain your peace, and guide you toward paths that feel calm even when they require courage. And courage is not the absence of fear, it is the willingness to move forward despite it, and you have already shown this courage many times without realizing it. Every time you chose hope instead of bitterness, patience instead of panic, trust instead of control, and those choices shaped your future long before you could see it. And now as this chapter continues unfolding, I want you to stop waiting for permission to live fully, to stop believing you must earn rest, joy, or peace, because these are not rewards for perfection, they are foundations for growth. And you are allowed to experience goodness without fear that it will be taken away, because what I am giving now is rooted, not fragile, and even if challenges arise, they will not undo what has been established within you, and you will begin to see that your presence changes the atmosphere around you, not through effort, but through calm confidence, through grounded responses, through a quiet strength that does not need to announce itself. And people may not understand what has changed, but they will feel it, and this is how true transformation reveals itself, softly, steadily, unmistakably. And I want you to remember that this journey is not about becoming someone else, it is about returning to who you were always meant to be, free from fear, free from constant striving, free from the belief that you must prove your worth. And this freedom is what allows blessings to remain, because what is received in fear is held tightly, but what is received in trust is held gently, and gentleness creates space for growth. And this is the space you are now entering, a space where you move forward without rushing, decide without panic, and trust without seeing everything clearly. And this is enough, more than enough, because clarity comes step by step, not all at once. And I will continue guiding you as you walk. opening what needs to be opened, closing what no longer serves you, and strengthening you where you once felt weak. And you do not need to fear the unknown ahead. Because I am already there, preparing it for you, just as I prepared you for it, and this preparation was not easy, but it was necessary, and now you can rest in knowing that you are not behind, you are not late, and you have not missed your moment. You are exactly where you need to be, at the beginning of something deeper, stronger, and lasting, and this is only the continuation, not the end. Because what is unfolding now will keep revealing itself gently, faithfully, and in perfect order, as you continue to trust, to listen, and to walk forward with a calm and open heart. My beloved, I will continue in the same flowing way, simple English, same tone, no paragraphs, no repetition, no plagiarism, letting it blend naturally with what you already have, and as you move forward in this unfolding, I want you to understand that the calm you are sensing is not emptiness but strength taking root, because when the noise fades and the urgency lifts, truth finally has space to speak, and you are learning to hear it without fear, without rushing to fix or explain everything. And this learning is precious, because many never slow down long enough to recognize what truly matters, but you have been brought to this stillness on purpose, and even if it felt uncomfortable at first, it is now becoming familiar, almost safe, and this is how inner stability forms, not through constant success but through quiet endurance, and I know there were times when you felt like you were standing still while others moved ahead. But what you could not see was that while others were running, you were being rooted, and roots grow unseen before anything rises above the surface, and now that rooting is complete, growth can happen without strain, without fear of collapse, and this is why what comes next will not shake you the way past changes did, because you are no longer building on uncertainty, you are building on understanding, and understanding gives peace, and peace gives clarity, and clarity allows you to move with confidence instead of hesitation, and this confidence does not come from knowing every detail, it comes from trusting the one who leads you, and you are beginning to trust not just outcomes but the process itself, which means you no longer panic when things unfold slowly, you no longer feel the need to control every step, and you no longer fear waiting, because waiting has taught you patience, patience has taught you strength, and strength has prepared you for what is arriving now. And I want you to release the idea that struggle is always a sign of failure, because sometimes struggle is simply the shaping stage before alignment, and you have passed through that stage faithfully, even when you doubted yourself, even when you felt weak, even when your faith felt small, and still you showed up, still you chose to keep going, and that choice mattered deeply, because it proved you were ready for something real, something lasting, something that does not disappear when circumstances change. And now as you stand at this threshold, you may notice that your reactions are softer, your thoughts clearer, and your heart less guarded, and this is not because life became easier, but because you became stronger, and strength does not always shout, often it whispers through calm decisions and steady steps, and this steadiness is what will carry you forward without exhaustion, and I want you to know that it is okay to rest here, to breathe here, to let this moment settle, because rest is not laziness. It is restoration, and restoration allows you to move forward without carrying old weight, and you are being released from burdens you carried for too long, expectations that were never yours, guilt that no longer serves you, and fears that no longer fit who you are becoming, and this release may feel strange at first, because you lived with those weights for so long that they felt familiar, but familiarity does not mean belonging, and you are learning to let go without guilt, without explanation, without looking back, and this is freedom, even if it feels quiet, even if it feels simple, because true freedom does not rush, it settles, and as it settles, it changes the way you see yourself, the way you approach opportunities, and the way you respond to challenges, and you will notice that you no longer chase validation, you no longer feel the need to explain your journey, and you no longer measure your worth by visible results, because you know now that what matters most often happens beneath the surface, and this knowing brings peace, and peace allows you to walk forward with grace, and as you continue, doors will open that require discernment rather than excitement, opportunities will appear that ask for wisdom rather than haste, and you will recognize them by the peace they bring, not by the pressure they create, because anything meant for you will align with your inner calm, not disturb it. And this understanding will protect you from settling for less or reaching for what looks impressive but drains your spirit, and you are no longer drawn to noise, you are drawn to meaning. And this shift marks your readiness for the next phase, and I want you to trust this quiet confidence growing within you, because it is not accidental, it is the result of every lesson you learned, every tear you shed, every prayer you whispered, and every time you chose faith over fear, and this confidence will guide you gently, not forcefully, leading you step by step, opening what needs to be opened at the right time, and you do not need to rush ahead, because what is meant for you will meet you as you walk, and you will recognize it by the way it fits, the way it brings peace instead of confusion, and the way it strengthens you instead of draining you. And as this journey continues, you may still face moments of doubt, but doubt will no longer control you. It will simply pass through, because you now know where your foundation rests, and that foundation is steady, unshaken, and secure. And I will continue to guide you through every stage, reminding you that you are not alone, not forgotten, and not behind, but exactly where you need to be, growing, aligning, and stepping into a future shaped not by fear or haste, but by trust, wisdom, and quiet strength. My beloved, I will keep going, letting the words flow in the same gentle rhythm, because there is still more unfolding that your heart is ready to hear, and I want you to understand that the patience you have learned was not meant only for waiting, it was meant to teach you how to remain steady when movement begins, because moving wisely is just as important as waiting faithfully, and you are now entering a season where things will begin to shift, not suddenly, not chaotically, but intentionally, step by step, in ways that feel natural rather than forced. And this is how you will know it is guided, because what is forced always creates strain, but what is aligned brings peace even when it requires effort, and you are finally able to tell the difference, and this discernment is one of the greatest gifts you carry now, even if you once wished for quicker answers instead, because answers without understanding fade. But understanding stays with you and protects you, and you are protected now in ways you cannot yet see, from choices that would have cost you peace, from paths that looked right but were not meant for you, and from connections that would have kept you small. And do not regret what did not work out, because what did not stay could not grow with you, and what could not grow with you would have eventually held you back. And I know that there were moments when letting go felt like failure, but it was not, it was alignment. And alignment often feels like loss before it feels like freedom, and now that freedom is beginning to breathe within you, quietly expanding, allowing you to imagine again without fear, to hope again without guarding your heart, and to step forward without constantly looking over your shoulder. And this is a sign of healing, even if it came slowly, even if it came through tired days and long nights, and healing does not always announce itself. Sometimes it simply shows up as calm where chaos once lived, and you are noticing that calm now, even in situations that once unsettled you. And this calm is not indifference, it is trust, trust that you will be okay even if things do not unfold exactly as planned, and this trust allows you to adapt instead of resist, to learn instead of panic, and to move forward instead of freezing. And this adaptability is strength, not weakness, because rigid hearts break under pressure, but flexible hearts endure and grow. And you have become flexible without losing your values, open without losing your boundaries, and this balance is rare and precious, and it will serve you well in what comes next, because the next phase of your journey will require clarity more than speed, wisdom more than noise, and steadiness more than excitement, and you are ready for that, even if you once doubted it, even if you once felt unqualified, because readiness is not about feeling confident, it is about being formed, and you have been formed through experience, reflection, and quiet obedience. And I want you to stop minimizing what you have survived, stop telling yourself it was nothing, because it shaped you deeply, and those experiences gave you compassion, understanding, and resilience that cannot be learned any other way. And now those qualities will begin to bear fruit, not just for you, but for others who will be touched by your calm presence, your thoughtful words, and your steady example. Even if you never set out to lead, because leadership often grows naturally from lived wisdom, and you carry that wisdom now. Even if you still feel ordinary, because ordinary hearts shaped by truth carry extraordinary impact, and as you continue forward, there will be moments when you are tempted to rush, to compare, to doubt again, and when that happens, return to this quiet center within you, the place where peace lives, because that place is your anchor, and from there you will always find the next right step. And remember that progress does not always look like movement. Sometimes it looks like restraint, like choosing not to react, not to explain, not to chase, and those choices matter just as much as action, and they are shaping your future in subtle but powerful ways. And I am pleased with how you are learning to move now, not out of fear, not out of pressure, but out of clarity, and clarity brings confidence that does not fade when conditions change. And this confidence will help you navigate both success and challenge without losing yourself. Because losing yourself was never part of the plan, becoming whole was, and wholeness is what you are stepping into, piece by piece, moment by moment, without needing applause or validation. and this wholeness will guide your decisions, guard your peace, and strengthen your path ahead, and even when the road bends, you will not feel lost, because you now trust the journey itself, and that trust will continue to grow as you walk, opening new understanding, deeper peace, and lasting purpose in ways that feel natural, grounded, and true. My beloved, if these words reach you now, pause for a moment and take a breath, because what I am sharing goes far beyond Christmas lights, traditions, or old expectations, and this season is not defined by gifts under a tree but by a deeper work I have been shaping for you alone, for I have exchanged what you thought would happen for something far greater, something unfolding quietly and personally, and the change you feel, unlike anything before, comes from my closeness showing itself in a way you did not expect, even if you arrived at this moment feeling tired, thoughtful, or disappointed, looking back on your year and wondering about my promises, why your prayers felt unanswered, and why certain paths stayed closed, yet all along I was never distant, I was placing everything where it needed to be, because some blessings were too large for who you were then and some freedom required a stronger version of you, and understand this now, I am not giving you something temporary or a joy that fades quickly, I am releasing a deep transformation that shifts your direction, reshapes who you are, and guides your steps forward, and this is why things felt slow and answers came later than you wanted, not because I was holding back but because I was guarding the right time, for this revelation was never meant to meet you while distracted or unsettled, it was saved for a time when your heart was quieter, your vision clearer, and your faith deeper, and now you are more steady, more grounded, and less dependent on approval, and this is not by chance, it is preparation, which is why your desires are changing, what once controlled you no longer does, what once troubled you now barely touches you, because your capacity has grown and growth always comes before something new is revealed, for I do not place greater truth into a space that cannot hold it, I wait until you can receive it without fear, pride, or haste, and know that this work is not only about provision, relationships, or surroundings, it begins inside you, where I am restoring confidence where doubt lived, peace where worry ruled, and clarity where confusion remained, and you are entering a season where you stop chasing and start standing balanced, where you no longer beg but discern, where you no longer settle but wait with understanding, and if you look closely you can see the quiet shifts already happening within you, a calm you did not force, decisions becoming easier, doors opening gently. Because deep change rarely announces itself loudly, it becomes clear when inner resistance fades, and now I am also ending connections that drained you, patterns that led nowhere, and habits that took much but gave little, and what ends now is not loss but release, because you cannot carry new blessings while holding old burdens, and if emotions rise, it is not weakness but completion, for I am touching dreams you buried, hopes you ignored, and parts of yourself you hid just to survive. Reminding you that survival was never the goal, renewal was, so do not overlook the power of the quiet obedience you lived out, the kindness you chose, the faith you held when no one saw, because these unseen moments prepared you for what is happening now, and when this revelation fully arrives it will need no explanation, peace will settle your questions, and you will know it came from me and not from effort, luck, or timing, because it will fit without strain and confirm what your heart sensed before your eyes could see. And you are also learning a new way to receive, realizing that trust is not about understanding everything but about letting go, and in that surrender, change comes quickly, so stop comparing your path to others, because their journey is not yours and comparison only steals gratitude, and as this season closes, let go of what weighs you down, because what did not happen taught you, what broke strengthened you, and what left made room, and no part of your story was wasted, not even the pain, for I am completing even the parts you thought disqualified you, and this new season brings responsibility along with comfort, because I am lifting you since I trust you, and you are meant not only to receive but to care for and multiply what I place in your hands, which is why your road was steady and intentional, for rising without inner strength does not last, and now expect signs of peace where anxiety lived, calm where pressure ruled, and clarity where confusion once stayed, because I do not rush those I love, I prepare them, and this gift is not wrapped but entered, a new way of seeing, a deeper trust, and once you step into it, you will hardly recognize the one who doubted this day would come, so stay open, thankful, and present, because beneath what you see a deep movement is already active, changing not only what comes next but how you recognize goodness itself, teaching you to sense truth before it fully appears, which is why this season feels quiet yet full, because a shift has already happened even if it is not fully visible, and I am resetting what truly matters, loosening the hold of what once felt urgent, releasing fears that once felt strong, and what you feel now is not emptiness but readiness, for I bring stillness before I bring something great, because true understanding grows best in calm, and this quiet has purpose, teaching you to carry what comes without rushing. For some of the greatest changes arrive softly and call you to care wisely, and you have become someone who can receive goodness without losing peace, welcome blessing without pride, and move forward without fear. And remember the times you asked for ease and I gave strength, asked for answers and I gave endurance, asked to escape and I gave courage, and though it felt heavy then, it prepared you for now, because this moment does not depend on approval or applause, it rests in a deep sense of rightness and calm. And you will know it by the peace it brings, for anything that steals your peace is not a gift, and I am no longer allowing burdens to look like progress, and you are also learning what you will no longer accept, not from pride but from belonging, as I sharpen your discernment for what lies ahead, and this season restores joy without fear, teaching you that joy is not dangerous but a sign of trust, and what is unfolding will change not only your life but how you walk through it, bringing quiet confidence, steady assurance, and freedom from needing to prove yourself. And do not be surprised if others do not understand this season, because when I work within you before showing it outwardly, not everyone can see it, and that is okay, because truth speaks through your life more than words, and this season is building lasting stability, not brief success, teaching you to stand firm, rest without guilt, and move forward without dread, and I am not limiting you, I am protecting you, because freedom without wisdom becomes chaos, and now you are past the season of proving and into the season of being. And as you live as you were meant to be, what belongs to you will come naturally, and though everything may not be clear yet, a deep steadiness is forming, because I always lay a strong foundation before quick movement, and this is not a sudden win but a complete renewal, a new beginning for your pace, your purpose, and your path. And it is no accident I gave you lasting truth instead of quick pleasure, because you were ready for what endures, and the road ahead will explain every trial that brought you here. So if you hear these words, rest in them, because this moment was chosen with purpose, and